Hello everyone. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Andre and I'm your bookworm. And I am back to the usual setup. Thank God I was able to record this video as on the day that I arrived pretty much. And forgive my voice, I'm a bit sick, but I really wanted to deliver this video, which is the review of episode 9 of Lord of the Mysteries. For the ones that are new, forgive my voice again. It will disappear hopefully this week. Today we are reviewing an anime. We're reviewing episode 9, and this anime is Lord of the Mysteries, which is an adaptation of a web novel the same name, Lord of the Mysteries, and it was written by Cuttlefish That Loves Diving, or the Chinese name, which is Qian Shui de Wuzei, if I pronounced that correctly, because tones are not my forte. But anyways, I've been reviewing episode by episode. You can check it out through the thumbnails or the cards up above, and I've also read and reviewed the first volume. I am currently trying to get the second volume wrapped up so that I can release that here on the channel as well. You can check all of that out and then come back for this video. For the ones that have watched all of that, let's start. So we start off the episode with Klein thinking how is he gonna tell the crew, the Nighthawks, about the acting method, since he doesn't want any of his team members to suffer the same fate that Mr. Haver fell in the previous episode, which basically he lost control and turned into a rampager and almost killed Klein and some of the other Nighthawks. So Klein is worried about it, he wants to tell them, and as he's thinking about this, Miss Dally, who hadn't shown up in a few episodes, she was up to episode 3 or 4 I think, she shows up in this spiritual form to tell Klein that basically a lot of the higher echelons of the Nighthawks know about this, but they choose not to tell the lower ranks of the Nighthawks. Why? No one knows exactly. Me, myself, I don't think I know. I have some theories about it, but I haven't formed any conclusive decisions. But yeah, it's a weird mystery. We don't understand really well why. And Miss Dally is basically telling Klein, you need to go now. You need to go tell them now before the Nighthawks or the Church of the Evernight Goddess sends someone to swear Klein into secrecy. And so this part I think was well done. I think Miss Dally was nailed in the head in the sense that she was very cheeky but also very mysterious and powerful in that sense. You don't get that information in this episode, but in the web novel we do know that Miss Dally was able to progress through her sequence quite fast because she knew about this acting method, and the church basically sent her far away because she advanced quite fast and she became powerful. And so she's now in a different city, and the only way for her to access Klein was through this method. So with this information, Klein decides to run to the Nighthawks and gather everyone. He eventually is able to do so and tells them about the acting method. Everyone's super surprised, but one point to reference is that old Neil is especially surprised but also shocked by it because he spent 20 years trying to go past sequence 9, which is the sequence he is. He is a mystery prior, and it hits him very hard because if he had known about this before, he would have been able to advance, and he keeps kind of blaming himself but also realizing if I knew Klein before, I would have been able to advance, or if he had paid attention, because Klein said, oh, I realized this due to the maxim of the mystery priors, which is do as you wish but do no harm. Although Klein is also kind of lying because he got some help from Roselle's diaries. But anyways, old Neil kind of blames himself a lot about this, and we can see that in this scene. But the scene is cut short because someone from the Church of Evernight Goddess arrives, and that is Crested Sesamir, if I say that name properly. Crested Sesamir is a sequence 5. We know that he is also carrying an artifact that basically puts him at a sequence 4, which is a demigod level, so way more powerful than anyone in the Nighthawks team. And he is there basically to interrogate Klein about his quick moving on from sequence 9 to sequence 8, but also to swear Klein to secrecy about the acting method. The interrogation part I think was good. It was very accurate with the web novel in the sense of how it was portrayed, and I think also the scene where Crescent uses the artifact, which is a very big white sword, to swear not only Klein, because then Crescent realizes that everyone in the Nighthawks knows about the acting method, so he decides to swear the whole team to secrecy. And I like the detail that Klein is using Klein's name when he's making that oath, But we know as viewers that Klein is also Joe Mingro, so he can actually tell other people through being Joe. So there's that small avenue that he can go, which I enjoyed that detail. After this, we see Klein preparing his clown potion and drinking it and digesting it, finally achieving sequence 8, which is clown. I enjoyed a lot more this sequence of events in the sense that the making of the potion was really nice to see. I liked the effects. Him drinking and then absorbing it was done better than the first time around, because I thought the first time it was way too much for a sequence 9, and it felt like he was almost just destroying the whole world when, again, he was a sequence 9. But this time, sequence 8, he felt a bit more powerful, but it didn't feel like he was about to explode or he was about to go crazy, and he was able to just rein it in a bit better, because I think that's how it should go with every sequence that he goes up or goes down. I mean, he should be harder for him to control and absorb it, because it is a bigger power that he's absorbing pretty much. But anyways, after this, he gets a few new powers. He realizes he's more agile, has a bit more strength, and he tries to show this to the Nighthawks, and inclusive, he tries to do some of the powers that he saw the other clown from episode 3 or 4 do, but he realizes he doesn't have those yet, and he needs to still improve and go up or down in the sequence to be able to have those powers. We also get another interaction between Old Neil and Klein, where once again we see the disappointment in Old Neil about not having able to progress through the sequence. Now he is too old to do so, the church wouldn't allow it, and he's sad about it, and he's blaming himself again, thinking that if only he had paid more attention to his own maxim or have it Klein by his side 20 years ago, he would have been able to progress through the sequence, but also help his friends and maybe avoid the death of some of them. And I think it's very sad. I think the scene is done very well, especially because we've been carrying all of these feelings from Old Neil from the previous episode, because we learned so much about his life, and now this time in this episode we're still carrying that, and we see how sad Neil is and how frustrated he is about not being able to do anything about it. But anyways, after this, Old Neil basically flips his mood and says, let's just organize a party to celebrate Klein's advancement, and let's just gather all the Nighthawks for it. And so they decide to do that, and the next scene is pretty much us traveling to Old Neil's house just to pick him up to go to said party. And this triggers one of the most pivotal scenes of the first volume in the web novel, and I think probably one of the most pivotal scenes in the anime in this first season. So the Nighthawks go to Old Neil's house just to be barred at the entrance by Old Neil. And Old Neil is saying that he is feeling a bit sick, he doesn't want to go, and everyone's finding it a bit weird because he is not letting them in, and also he's just acting weird. And through a sequence of events, which I don't want to describe everything in detail, but I'm gonna say that they were all pretty good, we basically realized that Old Neil is really close of losing control, if not have lost control already. And this is because of two things. One of them is his physical appearance. He has become this monstrosity. He only has his face left, and even his face is mutating to have so many eyes. And on top of that, he is trying to resurrect his dead wife. He said that he is hearing these whispers from the Hidden Sage, which is the god associated to his sequence, and that it gave him a ritual to be able to resurrect his wife. And the ritual, he has all the ingredients, except the last one, which is blood from a lot of people. But that he has decided that he will use his own blood instead, because the maxim of the Mystery Priors is, once again, do as you wish, but do no harm. Of course, the Nighthawks cannot let this go. We see Captain Dunn telling Leonard and another Nighthawk to go back and get some help. Klein is with Captain Dunn, and we see it's a very sad scene because we see Old Neil begging Captain Dunn to let him go, that he will not do any harm to anyone, and he will just live in isolation. And of course, Captain Dunn cannot let that happen. I mean, Old Neil looks monstrous. His house is full of gore and blood and just disgusting images. So it is a very heartbreaking scene, especially hearing Old Neil just beg for it. I think the duality of this situation, seeing Old Neil begging while being this monster, and Captain Dunn at the same time being a human but being so stark and so harsh because he has to, is very heartbreaking, and at the same time, the whole scenario around them full of gore, full of flesh and blood, and at the same time in the background we have the piano playing, which has been a motif since 2 episodes ago, where we see Old Neil playing the piano, and it's always very samba and very sad and very dark. And so all of these things are playing, I think, perfectly for this scene to carry the emotion that it has to have. We have a brief action sequence of Old Neil trying to do some harm, to escape pretty much, and it reaches a point where Leonard and the other Nighthawk that had gone to get some help, they come back with an artifact. That artifact are these strands of hair that, if when touch someone's skin, basically removes all emotions from that person, and that person becomes apathic. And Captain Dunn uses it on Old Neil. Old Neil stops being so angry and want to just release that anger. And with that, Captain Dunn does the hard thing, which is to shoot Old Neil and kill him. What follows is a sequence of scenes that is very emotional, very powerful. We go from seeing, for example, the secretary that had been outside the house the whole time, go in, seeing that Old Neil is dead, and start crying. All the Nighthawks around her start crying as well. And then we go and we see Old Neil's funeral with the Nighthawks still crying, still super sad about having to see a companion's death. And after that, we see one small glimpse of happiness, which is to see Old Neil reunited with his wife again. So I think emotionally, this episode nailed it on the head, especially these last scenes. They were super emotional, super sad. And yeah, I think it is what the episode deserved. I think the fact that we had very little action was also good, because I think the action would detract from the emotion of the episode. So I think those things were played very, very well. If I had to criticize something, it is just a small criticism, which is that there is a difference between the web novel and the anime, and that is the way how the Nighthawks realized that Old Neil was losing control. Because in the web novel, if I remember correctly, Qian is in the Nighthawk's office, and he is talking with the secretary, whose name I cannot remember, but he is talking to her, and they're talking about Old Neil, and they realize that some things don't match up, that Old Neil is telling them different things. And because of that, Klein starts suspecting that Old Neil might be losing control. He goes and tells Captain Dunn, then they go off to Old Neil's house, and the rest of the sequence is pretty similar. I think in the web novel there was more of a surprise factor, because you just get that oh my god feeling when Klein realizes at the same time, whereas in the anime you kind of see the progression of it happening, so it's a more of a crescendo and not from 0 to 100. So it is slightly different approaches. I enjoyed both, but I enjoyed more the web novel approach. But yeah, so now we only have 4 episodes. I mean, one of them is already out, so 3 more episodes. I'll try and see the episode to this week and review it and post it this week as well. Let's see if I can. But yeah, it's almost over. I don't know when the second season is coming out, but I need to keep reading the web novel so that the anime does not catch up to me. But it's been a really good journey. What do you think? Comment down below. Did you enjoy this episode? I thought it was one of the best in terms of emotional impact, not in maybe in terms of action or in terms of the animation, although the animation I think was done well, especially the music part, brilliant for me. But yeah, comment down below. I want to know more opinions. And if you're new, don't forget, subscribe, like the content, and I shall be seeing you on Thursdays and Sundays once my schedule regularizes, now that I'm back and I finally have this good setup, which I love with all my books. But anyways, see you soon and happy readings!